Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Season 3 of Conversations in Pop Culture, brought to you by my sponsors, Mixum Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free to their 24-hour customer service support. Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials. And the company has also printed so many successful Kickstarter campaigns, a bunch of them you even heard about on this very show. And they currently offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK, and they can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to mixon.com. And right now, listeners of my show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount on their first order. That's mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount on your first order. So please use them, guys. I need the sponsorship. And then furthermore, BCW Supplies is also a sponsor. And you can drop Pop Anime Comics to get 10% off your entire order because bags and boards are expensive. And my Kickstarter is live too. But I don't want to talk about my Kickstarter because we're going to be talking about Larry Welz's Kickstarter because I have him and you are a legend, sir. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's great. Mixum, that's who's doing our books.
Yeah, I like Mixum a lot, and they're making this show happen, at least pre-Kickstarter, and then I'm hoping that I keep them happy for the rest that I'm on, doing my show and everything, because they don't torture me as a sponsor, and I love it. So obviously, though, you got a lot going on with this Kickstarter involving the Cherry action figure. And that is beyond funded, and we're going to go through it. I got a bunch of pictures. Apparently, I found a bunch of favorite new artists that I have because of your Kickstarter. But I do want to catch everybody up on what is Cherry for those that don't know, so they're not a little bit shocked when they discover it.
Okay.
So what is like the brief definition of Cherry for those who don't know?
The brief definition of Cherry. It's it's a underground comic that I came up with in the 70s actually, and when the underground scene in the San Francisco Bay Area was going strong, and it just seemed like an obvious thing to happen of an Archie style. At that time, Archie, every comic company had some kind of a wacky teenager comic book, right? And Marvel had Millie the Model, and there was Binky and Scooter and shit like that. So as satirizing the whole, but I was thinking, well, what if they did it like real teenagers at that time, which took a lot of drugs and got drunk and go out and wreck daddy's car and and have a lot of sex, right? And so that seemed like a funny thing to me, that Archie had been chasing these girls for 50 years, right? And still hadn't gotten any. And I just thought it was a funny deal. And so I came up with, the deal was I did it as a one-off. It was just a concept, and it was more like I have this idea for a comic that would go something like this. It took me years, like 6 years, to put the damn thing together, because
obviously it's not Archie, it's an underground book. Cherry is a promiscuous 18-year-old having a lot of fun. And not just with the boys, but somewhat with the girls too. Her mom's the same way. And I love Cherry. And I love everything about it. I love the idea of what it's pushing and the lines, the fact that it's underground. It's making fun of Archie. They didn't win that war with you either. They lost that war pretty hard in a lot of ways. And so what was this like, really putting something out that was underground, that was adult, and that really was the first like adult erotica comic and sort of the groundwork in a lot of ways for bad girl art?
Right. Yeah, actually it was. And at the time, there was a lot of, it was kind of, S. Clay Wilson sort of paved the way for it. You know, it wasn't like he opened the door for us. I say he showed us that the door was open, that we could do anything we wanted, and so there was a lot of other stuff going on. I remember there was a Phoebe Zeitgeist in the National Lampoon. I think that was really well done and everything, but it was her just being fucked by various monsters and things like that. She was just a punch board. I mean, oh, that's cool. And Wilson his stuff was great and all that, but it was just so nasty and violent and stuff like that, which is, you know, it's fine. That's fine. But I was thinking, well, what about a comic where sex was okay and it was fun and it was nice? And so, yeah, so I did that. And that was the gag. And then when it turned out that it actually sold and I had to do more, I got beyond. I was just doing like the cliche things at first, but just, you know, but to go ahead and have them be, you know, whatever, hardcore, you know, explicit, you know, actual, you know, penetration, you know, you know, they're fucking the teacher and or the guy with a hot car, you know, it takes her out to the boonies and it's fuck her walk, you know, it's you know, urban legend kind of thing. And once I got through with those, then I had to get into, well, let's see, when it got topical was one year when everything was what was it? Was it Dan whatever the thing with the all the sex scandals and shit, whatever everything or all that happened. Oh yeah, this looks like her. But yeah, so again, political thing but just it being yeah, there's sort of a disguise. It's disguised as a sex comic. It looks like a teen sex comic, but it's actually anti-fascist propaganda.
Because
the gag of it being but it's what's funny is that when they do this, they came up with this TV show, the Riverdale thing. That really cracked me up. What the first scene have Archie fucking Miss Grundy in her Volkswagen? What? Wait, what? That's nastier than what I was doing. And so it's like they ruined it for me. Now my stuff is not dangerous. It's just some other shit, you know.
But at the time, especially in the 70s and even in the 80s, you know, obviously we had the underground comics movement on. I've had Howard Cruz before he passed away, mm-hmm. Rest in peace. Dennis Kitchen has been on. Trina Robbins has been on my shows. And so one of these things that's very interesting is that at the time in the 80s and even in the 90s, you know, all this stuff wasn't really allowed per se. And now Cherry is relatively tame, I think. And right. So what was that like? Because I don't think without people like you and Dennis Kitchen and Trina and Howard Cruz that in the comic realm we would have any of this. And it looks like going backwards. And obviously this is the first issue of Cherry. And what it looks like, you know, at the time, clearly, you know, that was, you know, risque. And now that's tame, and even what like Riverdale did. And, you know, I watch a bunch of anime and some of the stuff in there, I'm just like, how the hell did this get on TV? You know?
Yeah, right.
But what is that like for you? Because in a lot of ways, you know, I'm very much a free speech advocate in comics and things like that.
Right.
And this has paved the path because without Cherry and without a bunch of other books, this wouldn't happen. And we wouldn't be where we are in literature in a lot of ways.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, well, that at the time, that was the irony of it was that this, especially me making it, you know, cute and nice and fun, sex. Oh, this is dangerous. It was considered dangerous, right? When the Mies Commission reported on the pornography and everything, when it was a huge deal, and that just amused the fuck out of me. That, this stuff, this is dangerous. Well, okay, here's some more then. But then now it's now it isn't, and so now I have to do it to my best to fight fascism and creeping neoliberal capitalism and shit like that. As a cartoonist, I feel it's my sacred duty to, you know, mock authority and to bring the powers that be down to the extent that I can. My humble offering in the revolution. That was the idea. I was drawing comics for the revolution, which we had started. It was exciting. We were part of something. We were going to change the world. And then capitalism came and absorbed it all. The next thing we're buying velvet bell bottoms at fucking Macy's. Wait a minute, that's not the idea. But I'm still doing comics for the revolution. That never happened.
Well, I enjoy the revolution tremendously. So that's
what?
I'm enjoying. I don't know why my. Hold up. Let me see what's going on. Am I good now or not good? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why my phone is being difficult now, and my laptop's being difficult. Did the echo stop?
I got no echo.
Okay, then we're good. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, I enjoy the revolution and I enjoy pushing the line. And obviously, you've been doing this for almost 50 years. And in that time period, I mean, you've had some story work done by Neil Gaiman. You've obviously had a bunch of reprints, and you've had a bunch of other things happen. And obviously, Frankie Comics just did a book of yours, and it's up here, and this is what it looks like. And so, what is that like? Before we really dive into the action figure stuff, because that's what I really want to talk about. But obviously, Cherry has been around for 50 years plus at this point, and clearly people love it. And there's a whole bunch of generations where I'm 29, so I wasn't at the birth of Cherry, but I came into it because I like bad girl art. I like art that's funny. I like things that are funny, and then you read Archie and you get bored with it being tame. And what is this like for you? Because legitimately, you have had probably the most amazing run with a comic from the underground world ever.
Yeah, well, that actually interested me that you even know about it, because it's not distributed widely anymore like it was. They were when it was going, they were printing 10,000 at a time, and then we reprint them again, and another 10,000, and now nobody prints that many, and so I don't even know how it even gets out there, how guys like you even find out about me.
It happens because I love weird comics, and I get into my favorite comic company is Zenescope. And then what happens is that you go, and then Zenescope goes and hires Dean Yeagle, for instance, and Dean does Mandy, and then Mandy becomes a gateway drug because he did a cover for Zenescope, and then you're like, oh man, I love Mandy. Why wouldn't I? What else is like Mandy? Then you discover Cherry, and then you start speaking to people like J.S. Moore and Jim Noble, who's on my show, who's done stuff for Cherry. And then all of a sudden I get really into it, and I'm like, oh man, I just want to read this stuff. And then I realize I can't afford the first issues, and then I'm upset for a week. And then but I can read it digitally, and I can get up a beat up copy. And then you go look at Frankie Comics, and then they have a variant of a reprint. And, all of a sudden that's how I get in, because I'm like, man, there's gateways into all of this stuff from other companies in the most weird way, and the water flows downward. I don't know if that makes any sense, but for me, I'm like, man, I know who Larry Welz is, and you've been on my list for 6 months.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I got into it. And then obviously, Cherry's older than me at this point, and it's very cool for me as a consumer and somebody who loves history and loves underground stuff and underground comics. And that's what I think is starting to happen, is that also I'm an indie guy right now, and I'm a big Kickstarter guy. And this just has that vibe to it, where it's like we're breaking rules by reading this is the vibe.
Right. Yeah, well, that's right. That's the first requirement, is to break some rules, like, as I say, that to be considered dangerous, because the real art to be dangerous, I think, to really be art, and really to upset your perceptions and disturb you or something like that. But so it's again, that's against the rules. Yeah, that was being a smart ass. Yeah, and I got it all from, of course, from Harvey Kurtzman and Bill Elder and all those guys, the Mad Comics. which were being, when I was a kid in the 50s, the comics were being reprinted in digest form, little pocketbooks. And I discovered those on the spinner rack next to the comics, and in black and white, small, which is how the Undergrounds first happened. But anyway, reading that and that that really resonated with me, Kurtzman's whole thing. And I didn't even realize it was him. I saw in Mad Magazine that he was the editor. It was hard because I didn't know what an editor was in those days, But that the whole deal, the irony and satire and thing, and that authority was to be mocked. And I got that from them, and that I'm just continuing on the proud tradition of being a smartass.
And I love it because I'm a smartass, and it gets me in more trouble than not. And it's amazing I still have sponsors on my show, so God help me. But I digress right there, and I'm sure I could talk about Cherry and go through every single issue, and I've read enough of it, not every issue, but I appreciate certain aspects. I appreciate the fact that Archie tried to sue you and they failed miserably. I think that is the funniest thing on the planet. They didn't
try. They just sort of threatened and everything like that. They had to say something so that in case they would actually do it later on, they would say, "Well, we tried to," or something like that. But yeah, that was. I'm proud of that.
It's not as bad as my friend got blocked by Ken Panders. So that's a whole different discussion. And my friend trolled the living shit out of Ken Panders. And then he.
And who? Oh! You froze up on me.
Oh, am I here still?
Nope. Oh, there you go. Yeah. All right.
Apparently, my friend trolled Ken Panders. He took all the Sonic the Hedgehog characters from like the first half of the Archie world, from Archie, and he trolled him, and him and all of his wrestling friends and co-tag team partners basically got blocked by Ken Panders. So if you don't get blocked by Ken Panders, you're in good shape. Is all I'm going to say at that point.
Okay.
but I digress right there, and I'm sure I could talk about Cherry with you for the next 15 minutes to an hour, but I do want to talk about the action figure stuff because that's what is super interesting right now. I think with you obviously have a Kickstarter. It's like almost 14,000 plus at this point, I think. And what prompted this to happen? Because Cherry never got an action figure. Cherry's been around for 50 years. It's multi-generational, and there's 4 basic action figures, and then there's a whole subsequential other action figures, and I have pictures, everybody, so bear with. But what prompted this idea? Because this is cool now, and this is exciting, and it's. I mean, I sort of want one. I'm debating and I'm tossing and turning and throwing it up if I'm figuring out my finances. But they look awesome.
Well, that's all new to me. This is all new and strange and stuff. This is a whole thing, a whole weird, I guess it's a whole subculture or something that I was reading about NFTs or something that it had to do with this kind of collector thing. And this isn't exactly that, but I guess it sort of has to do with that. But the deal is now, I feel like, well, I'm not doing comics anymore. I'm doing collector's items, which is a whole nother thing. So, and that's the way comics are now. Now they're this precious thing, it's an investment, and you slab them and board them and stuff like that. And all that just offends the crap out of me. But it's, and like, well, Mixum, who's doing the books for it, and it's great. They're doing a nice job and everything. But what I wanted, especially when we redid the first one, which was a real treat to be able to get to do that. And anyway, I wanted to do it on newsprint, like it was done before. And you can't even do it that way now. Now it's hard, slick paper and stuff like that. I got it the cheap as I could, but it's sort of like with there's this guy in where is it, in South Carolina that had a band. He's a comic or record store, and it does comics too. Sells comics too. but he had a punk band, Sloth, right? And I did the album cover art for him, and he did an actual LP, a disc, a vinyl disc, and it's like 3 times as thick as the regular records were that we were vinyl records. They were like floppy and everything. Oh, no, but now it's artisanal, right? So it's thick and it's like letterpress printing. When it used to be that printers would take very great care to have just enough pressure on it to put the ink on it, but where you couldn't see the impression. But now it's artisanal, and so they crank it up so you can see it pushed into the paper. Say, yes, this is letterpress. You know, it's all different now, which is, it's okay, I guess, because I'm doing little small runs of books and everything, and they're going for $10 a pop, which is insane. I mean, I felt bad, but when they went up to from 25 cents to 50 cents, well, that's too much to pay for a comic book, huh? But we're in a whole nother world now. This is in the future. This is the big, bright, beautiful tomorrow that Disney was singing about.
Yeah, no. And one of the things that I think is very cool about all this is that obviously, it's also now that you in a lot of ways control the supply and you don't need to go through a toy manufacturer. You can do it very much on an indie level and underground level of all of these action figures. And it's also more of an art piece. And there's also a lot more quality control. And also, since, you're not technically like Hasbro, you don't have to follow the same protocols of, having choking parts because it is more art and things of that nature. And what is that like? Because you're able to deliver a better quality product at this point with what you're doing with these action figures to what people want is collectibles, or even taking away the resellability component of it. And that's the space I play in with comic books, Pop Funkos, baseball cards, trading cards. The idea is that people want to buy this stuff and just sort of put it on their desk and look at it in a lot of ways and view it as art and view it in their action figure collection. And so what is that like? Because you're fulfilling a niche and a niche, and people want this stuff. And it's not just somebody who was reading it 50 years ago wants it. There's people like me that want it. There's people who maybe not younger than me, but maybe somebody who is 5 years older than me wants it. And maybe even somebody 5 years younger than me wants it at this point. And hopefully, I'm going to help you sell a bunch of action figures and people see this interview and are seeing it right now.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, it amuses me, but it's come out of the whole collector's thing. It is a collector's item. So the backing card and the little blister pack and everything, that is part of the piece. Because they're not even really action figures, they're not articulated. They don't, and you don't play with them. But it's like with the collectors with their toys and everything. I have an April O'Neil one that's in, of course, those, if you take it out of the package, then suddenly it's worth less. And so this is great, where the packaging is part of the piece. So it's sort of ironic. It's sort of a satire of itself, a parody of the whole action figure thing, of the whole toy market thing. So that's what I like about it.
I mean, I love it, and I'm going to just start showing some of this stuff off. So obviously, these are the 4 that I guess are what I like to call the base, where obviously you have the nude, you have her in a bikini, you have her in a schoolgirl. I'm not too sure if panties are optional in that one. And then you have a red glow. And so these are sort of, I guess, what is sort of just the base set, not the variants. Nothing fancy about it, and they're not super limited as the other ones I'm going to show in a second here. So what was it like just even building out these 4? Because I think people would have been thrilled with these 4, let alone the rest that you've released.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great. I love it. Yeah. I like seeing my stuff come out and take this form. This is a whole different form. That's great.
And then I would also show the plush folia or whatever, the philia, but I really don't want to get taken off YouTube or Facebook because that one is completely nude. And the background for that, I think I'm pushing the line far enough with some of these already. But even having that also being offered and out there and really delivering, because that is what Cherry is in so many ways. And it's great. And what is that like to have a 5th one in there and also have that set, because obviously people want this. People who come to Cherry, you know what you're getting into. And those four, you know exactly what you're getting with Cherry. And so what is that like to really deliver that and more with that fifth one that I can't show?
That's great. That is, yeah. So it's no longer the thing of like the first cherries that I did, or even still kind of. And I was at the time I was doing that, I was hanging out with Dan O'Neill and the Air Pirates in San Francisco, and sort of the idea of that, of them doing the Disney stuff, was that you could slip it onto the spinner rack, and you wouldn't know the difference. And so,
Who are you hanging out with?
Dan O'Neill and the Air Pirates. The Air Pirates, when did the whole, they did the whole thing with taking the Disney characters, the old ones though. He figured that they were in public domain at this point, because they're old, and having them do nasty stuff, doing. And Bobby London, who did Popeye for a while after that, and Gary Hallgren and Ted Richards and Sherry Flanagan were doing it, and it was very. And Disney ended up suing them, and it was a big deal. They sued the shit out of him, and he fought them to a standstill, basically, to where they finally said, "Okay, it's okay for you to do that shit, but nobody else can." Right?
Well, I'm sure Disney is going to have a fun time with Winnie the Pooh. I am sure, because that is open season, is all I'm going to say on Winnie the Pooh. And good luck, Disney, and have a fun time with that, because everything that everybody has wanted to do is going to come out in the next 6 months.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because Winnie the Pooh, I think, is public domain now.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah.
Like a week ago. Like, this isn't even like 6 months ago. It's like a week. It's going to be fun. But right. Winnie the Pooh, I mean, hey, I would pay good money for Winnie the Pooh Cherry. That's all I'm going to say. I pay decent money for it. I pay good money for a stretch part of that.
Yeah, well, that was one thing that always pissed me off about Disney, was that the kids growing up, everything think that Winnie the Pooh was a Disney thing. Disney character, and he did that with all that stuff, with Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland and everything like that. No, they're not Disney things. Disney took them and they made it and Disneyfied it, and Winnie the Pooh especially was that, and that really is identified with Disney, and I resented that all along.
There's a lot of
now he's free.
He's free. It's open season. Everybody should just go have a good time with it. Right. There's something in the honey. Let's just leave it at that. You can put whatever you want at the honey. Honey is something else. And I can think of 15 acronyms, or I don't know what we call something for something else. But obviously, I'm just waiting for somebody to come out with like the X-rated Winnie the Pooh. And
yeah, right. He's been running around with no pants, with this childish character, out in the woods with no pants on, all along. Like, what? What is this? I mean, come on.
I mean, I want a pants-wearing Winnie the Pooh. Just give me a pants-wearing Winnie the Pooh, somebody, and I will be thrilled. I will be happy as a pig rolling in shit if you give me a pants-wearing Winnie the Pooh. No shirt, just the pants. I think there's a real open market here. There's right now 0 Winnie the Poohs without pants, and the possibilities are endless. But enough talking about Winnie the Pooh. We do need to talk more about Cherry, because all these variant action figures, and this is some of it out there. But more importantly, this is sort of, I think, Sam Payne. I want to say Sam Payne did this, and then Sam Payne did this, and these are super, super limited. And so what was this like, bringing in another artist to have a variant edition and have it super limited, have it, where few people can get it, and some of these are already sold out, I know.
That's great. I enjoy having other artists interpret her. It's sort of what I attribute success to is their iconic nature. she isn't really a specific character. It's sort of like Betty Boop. It just sort of represents a spirit of something, and most of the people that really are into Betty Boop don't even realize that she was a comic, that she was a cartoon, with but that kind of thing. But yeah, so I enjoy seeing other people interpret her.
And then I think Sam also did this one as well, where this is the pink one. And I don't think you can get this one anymore. I think this one is completely sold out. And obviously, it's a lot of fun. It adds a variation. And it's really cool to me because obviously I come from the comic world. I'm not a big action figure guy, but it's the idea that when you have a variant and then you have a rare variant and then you have super limited things, and then also when somebody says, hey, I can interpret a character a certain way, because I've seen Spider-Man and Batman be interpreted 15 different ways. And it's nice to see that because every once in a while, somebody comes up and they have a really, really cool way of doing something. And it's just nice to not see the same shit over and over again. And what is that like for you? Because I also imagine it inspires you to some degree, saying, oh man, I never thought of my character in that light. And it's just really cool to see it done in that style.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I like it. It's great.
And then continuing with that, because this is my new favorite artist.
Oh yeah. I like that one.
She's great. She is great. And what's really cool about the background is that I think was almost graffitied on a wall. That's what's super cool about that piece is that card, like on Maku Fufu, I think that, or Mako Fufu's, Instagram, like you can see her doing it. And it is an awesome, awesome thing that she's done. And so what is that like to see this piece? Because this is just new school, right out of new school. Like this is classic, right out of new school. I want to tattoo this on me.
All right. What? So that's on Instagram. I heard doing that on a wall.
Yeah. I think she graffitied it on, like spray painted it on Instagram, like on a wall somewhere. And it's super cool. And like a lot of her art is like that, where it is a very cool piece. Where just like from just how it was conceptual, because it's got that graffiti feel to it. And like her style is just amazing. Like I am gonna, hopefully if she takes covers when I produce a comic, I want a comic cover from her because she is amazing. Like this is somebody I had no idea existed until last night. And I'm like, she's got unbelievable talent. And so what is this like for you? Because this is just one of the people you have working on, these action figures and these cards and these variants. And it's almost like a whole new generation of artists are working on Cherry and bringing characters to a new light, and it's so amazing.
Oh yeah, it is. It's great. It is. Yeah, it's like that. It warms my heart that it's a whole new generation of that. It was like I was asking you, like, how do they even know about me? I mean, but I'm flattered and honored and stuff. Yeah, I've seen her before. She showed up on walls and graffiti at a place in Dallas where somebody did a wall piece of her. That was years ago. Anyway, I love it. That was just great.
And then even continuing with this, another one that I didn't know existed is Spicy Donut. And Spicy Donut, obviously, it's a spicy play to it, very much also similar to New School, but obviously, sort of a beach bikini feel. And what is this? Because this is also classic Cherry in a lot of ways. And this is just another version of her. And this is definitely also something I love.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great.
And then I'm just going to show a bunch of them because this is obviously sort of the night version. This one I know is straight out of Cherry. This is gotta be close to your heart in a lot of ways because this is, I think, right from the first one. This cover.
Yeah, I think so. Huh? Yeah.
What is that like?
Okay, nice.
So what is that like to have something going old school as well? And, bringing that back and showing what Cherry is as a character and all that stuff, because this is so interesting to me as well.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. I was thinking, well, this is old, but it's new stuff for you guys, for this new generation. It's all new to them. So
Because that's what's so interesting as well is that, and obviously you just said it, but for me, a lot of this stuff is new, and my audience is going to be introduced to Cherry, and they're going to be introduced to your art style and a variety of interpretations and a bunch of talented people working on it, and that's part of why I wanted to interview you as well. Is that my generation, some people know you, some people don't, and I think what it is that it's very cool when they see both the new stuff and the old stuff, and they see everything in between. And that, obviously is very cool when you have 50 years of something and something that is iconic, because Cherry's been all over. And obviously a bunch of people have worked on this, just to go through a few more, obviously, Mermaid Cherry, which is the curly bunny, and that's another person coming up.
okay.
George Weber in Space.
Yeah, that's good. I like that one.
I love this one too.
Yeah.
It's great. This one's sold out, so that's cool, and everybody could be upset, and that's something that is really perfect. And this is Savage Cherry, and that's also just classic. And this is the one that I'm curious about because Peach Momoko is a big time Marvel artist, and she's slaying dragons right now. And she's got an exclusive deal with Marvel. She can do some indie stuff, and this is definitely schoolgirl. And what is this like for you? Because having Peach Momoko in your project involved, I think there's only 20 of these. Obviously, taking that Japanese schoolgirl and taking it to the next level, in my opinion. And what is that like? And also going back, issue number 2, Cherry Pop Tart, and all that stuff as well. What is that like for you as an artist? That somebody who is right now very much slaying dragons and has a big deal with Marvel is coming into Cherry, knowing exactly what Cherry is and doing what Cherry should be, and paying a lot of respect to Cherry, I feel.
Yeah, that was great. Actually, I was impressed. I'd never heard of her before that. Mike at Golden Apple Comics, that he helped us do the reprint of number 2 there, and so he came up with her, and wow, she really is good, and she was all really honored to be doing it for me. I was like, wow, really? But you're really good. But so that's I'm honored that she does that. I really like that, because the stuff she's doing for Marvel, she's really good.
Because it must be very cool for you, because a lot of these people, obviously you paved the path for a lot of people in comics, directly, indirectly, and a bunch of these people, I think they would have jobs. I'm not saying you created jobs for them, but I think that people like you, Dennis Kitchen, Trina Robbins, Howard Cruz, I could throw Denny O'Neil in there, Chuck Dixon to some degree, a variety of other people have really helped to build out the industry in a lot of ways. Paul Levitz as well. And so what is that like, that a bunch of young people are now doing things that involve your project and are happy to, and feel, hey, I know exactly who Larry Welz is, and the fact that I get to be part of this project, and that I get a one-on-one, or there's only 10 of these out there, it really, I don't know how you feel about it, because obviously I'm not at that stage. I've never had anything like that happen to me. And I know if it does, I'm going to be very, very humble about it. It's going to be very eye-opening and very interesting. So I'm curious how you feel about it, because obviously, it's your legacy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I guess so. But no, I'm whatever. I'm honored and humbled. I don't I don't even like my stuff. I don't think it's all that good. But so it's really gratifying to me that that they're totally getting the whole idea of it, of what I'm trying to say here. Which is nothing specific, but I've given me just ironic and sarcastic. That's the main deal. But yeah, no, I am. What can I say? I don't. I love it. This is great.
And then even going further into this, because I do want to create a sense of urgency for people. A bunch of these have sold out. A bunch of them have limited 10s. Some of them have limited 20s. I know the Cowgirl sold out. I know Tim Seeley worked on one of these with somebody else, and so with Michael Russell, Kurt Michael Russell, and I both the regular version and the nude version sold out, and a variety of others. And then you did a series of 8 or 10 of them that had Helena, and a variety of others, Babysitter Cherry and Suffragette Cherry, Cleopatra Cherry, and those are all gone as well. And so, what is that like? That all the good ones are gone. Like seriously, it's like,
Really?
and all the super rare ones. And that's not to say there aren't ones that are still available that are great. That you know, Mako Fufu, it looks awesome. I think there's like 1 or 2 or 3 of them left. But what is that like for you? That people just jumped on this, and people are super excited for it, and they're like, "I've been waiting for this. Just take my money."
It's strange. It's strange to me because, like I say, I've never heard of this stuff before. This is all new to me, especially this way. I mean, action. There's always been, toys and stuff like that, but this isn't toys. This is art pieces, and so yeah, I'm. It's strange, curiouser and curiouser.
Yeah, I mean, this is my world. So, I was like, oh man, this is so cool. When it came about me, and I was asking for money for my Kickstarter, and then I'm like, oh, somebody gave me Larry Welz. Sure, why not? This is awesome because he's on my list. And I don't think anybody would ever say yes, and so that's strange to me. But even still, like I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I know exactly what people are thinking with this, where they want to buy it, they want to appreciate, they want it to go up in value, and especially the ones of ones or the tens, the ones that only have 10. I mean, it's becoming a very interesting world, and it's a very collectible world at this point.
Yep.
And it's also fun because unlike an NFT, and a friend just granted me an NFT as a gift, I can't physically hold an NFT. I could physically look and display an action figure or a piece of art or a comic book. And I think that's also what's happening too, is that people like to look at this stuff and watch it, appreciate, and also be part of a club. Because if you have a 101, nobody else has that, and it's in your possession, and you're
Right.
also owning a piece of history as something that never has been done before with charity. You know, so it's very cool, at least the way I look at it. And I look at the collectible market, and maybe it's because I'm slightly of a greedy capitalist and I like to have super exclusive things that nobody else can have. But I don't know how you're like, just even just like being like, oh man, this stuff's selling out. Like, I would be ecstatic and I'd be super stoked, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, this is all strange to me. This is new territory. It's completely new, and this is the future for me.
Yeah, no, and then even going further, because also you're hitting a few other niches. Obviously, there's some cool things, and I like this one too right here, which is the skate deck. So that's
Hmm.
kind of cool. That's straight out of the '80s, by the way,
Yeah.
everybody. I mean, that is a perfect tier reward. Is all I'm gonna say is that. I mean, just look at that. That is a skate deck out of the '80s. The only thing that would be cooler is if it was screen pressed, like the Tony Hawk skateboards that were screen pressed, because those things are like bank. So a Tony Hawk screen press board is like a $2,000 skateboard. Like the first ones, they're expensive, just the deck. So, but I love that artwork on it. I do. And then there's also the this right here, which is the pin, the patches, and then in the add-on section is the shirt, which is similar to the skate deck.
Hmm.
Obviously, a lot of cool stuff. I wish there was just a tier for the shirt. Like that's my only complaint is that I would I would love a shirt. That's all I want is because that shirt's awesome. And I know it will upset people too. That's why I want it.
There you go. Yeah.
Anytime I can upset somebody with a T-shirt, I know it's a good shirt.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Art should be dangerous.
Oh, absolutely, art should be dangerous. And so obviously there's just so much stuff. And then I think I like missed at least like 10 of, the action figures and the variants you got going on and all sorts of stuff that's happening. And I think you got maybe a prototype paint today that I don't think you saw yet. So that's kind of cool that that's going on, and a lot of stuff is happening with this. But I am curious because obviously I am brand new to Kickstarter, and my Kickstarter is to fund season 3 of my podcast, and I'm doing all right. I'm 73% funded, which I am beyond pleased with because I thought I would be at 10% funded by this time. Um, and I actually like Kickstarter as a platform because I actually get to know my backers. I actually get to know what they're interested in. I get to know demographics. And what is that like for you to be on Kickstarter? Because it is very much the future. It is very much a whole system of funding projects and not having to deal with a middleman and deal with anybody else, and also get to see what people really like and what they don't like and who's buying what and where they're buying it from, and also not have to play by the authoritarian rules, for lack of a better word.
Right. Well, like I say, it's all new to me, and this is very strange. It's not like it was before. We used to get actual, fan letters, actual paper in the mail, and yeah, and this is great to being able to fund it from a different place. And it's a new way of doing things, of dealing with the public that I'm not really very good at. The thing of engaging people
Yeah,
on
you're
the
doing fine here.
real time. I just, it takes me forever to do a book. I'm working on the next book, and it's just, and I can't keep up. I can't do it like these kids are doing it. We do an update every week. It takes, I can't, I'm not that fast. I just don't work that way. And the whole thing of the style of how it's done, the Kickstarter thing it's new to me, and I'm not very good at it. And so
I'm not good at it either, but I am learning it, and I'm loving it, and I find it so fascinating because it is everything that I really want, minus the trolls who are giving me a hard time. There's like 2 or 3 people on Facebook who are giving me a hard time almost every other day. Minus that, I find it such an underground and such like an independent, way to do business, and such a, sort of, I don't want to say counterculture because it's mainstream, but this is sort of, I think, my generation, especially in indie comics, their underground movement, where all these projects are getting funded. So my friend Larry Higgins has a book called Niobe, and that book just got picked up by Anarchic Press, but it took almost 8 years for that to happen. And it's the idea, though, that it's a very underground book that's dealing with real issues. It's a real comic book. He had a book that dealt with a pro-life, pro-choice, political debate around protecting a child that a riot broke out essentially in over it. And, those characters and 2 characters are arguing, and they're on opposing sides. And I feel like in mainstream, that wouldn't have been allowed to happen. And Kickstarter allowed that book to occur. And it's very, very cool. And I feel like it's very much an underground position now. And that's what I really like about your Kickstarter, is that this is an underground action figure being funded versus traditional. And it's very cool. And there's a lot of cool stuff that's being done. I mean, you have variant limited edition backer cards, essentially. And I don't know what we call that with action figures, but who does that ever?
Yeah, right. Really. Yeah. Well, it's it's a brave new world. It's things are different now. So.
And so, I mean, I love it, and I find this so fascinating, and I'm curious, and I can't wait to see what you do next, because there's a lot of stuff that I think can be done here with, even for the next batch and whatever you got planned, and even with Cherry as well. And obviously, I sort of already mentioned the T-shirts and all that stuff, and then also you're doing something that I appreciate as well, where you have a retail package, you have a Brexit package, which I just think is the best name for it ever. I don't know whose idea it was, but I thought that was pretty funny. Just it's Brexit for the UK. It's specifically designed for them on the Kickstarter.
I haven't seen that.
So there's a tier on the Kickstarter, and I'm in East Coast, but it says Brexit specifically designed to ship to the UK, and I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
On a political joke level, I think it's funny, and I thoroughly enjoy whoever did that tier. Really has a sense of humor. Is all I'm gonna say.
Uh,
It- but, but even going further into this and your Kickstarter a little bit, obviously you have a little bit of help and a little bit of support with some people helping you out and building it out. And I don't know exactly how to pronounce their name per se, but what is that like? Who's helping you to produce the action figure and a little bit of the Kickstarter support and all that stuff? Because this is really, I think, helpful to a lot of people and it's helped you a lot as well. And even just having that, really good company behind you that really knows how to do this stuff and knows how to put out a quality product. Because I think the last thing people want, and this is something I'm trying to stress, is a shitty cherry action figure, which these are not, from my understanding.
right. Yeah. Right. Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it's all. Yeah, it takes somebody else has to do it because obviously I don't know how any of this shit works. So yeah, there's Gabriel Discordia. He's doing it all.
And so that's something that the way I think it's really said on the website, and it said it's not an action figure. This is a piece of art
Yeah.
where it's very much a piece of art, and you're displaying it that looks like an action figure, and that it's something that is very different. I think that's something that people need to understand is that you're not going to be ripping this open. Hopefully, I mean, you can. It's your property once you back the
Right. Exactly.
get it. It's yours. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do, and I don't think Larry's going to tell you what to do with it. But I don't think it's in your best interest to rip it open and then play with it.
No, no, because the packaging is part of the piece. The whole idea is yeah, it is. Yeah, I like that. There's just something strange and weird about that appeals to me.
I think it's great. I mean, it's right up the collector's alley, and it's so perfect. And
Yeah.
even to go further into this, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I am curious because obviously this is just another element of Cherry. And what is that like? Because you've done comics at this point, you've done something with Neil Gaiman on more of a deluxe edition story. Obviously, you have reprints. That Frankie Comics variant is very cool. That somebody else did that cover. I think it's Rose Bashesh, I want to say, or I can't say Rose Bashe. And a variety of other people have reprinted your books as of lately. And then now you got T-shirts, album covers, and now you're getting an action figure. What is that like? That you really have a whole slew of merchandise cutting across multi-facets of media.
It's great because it's very strange. He was always wanting to do that all along, and when I was with Kitchen Sink for a while, just before they became Tundra, and it was sort of a long story, but there was a
Dennis told the story, so if you guys want to go see that, you could go watch that entire interview. It's a great interview with Dennis Kitchen, but I know that entire story, and we didn't go too much into it.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. Yeah, well, but anyway, while he was doing that, they did like a cherry beach towel, and what else we do? We never got around to doing the chocolates, which I really wanted to do because it comes with a cigar box. That never happened, but dang.
Really, you just wanted it for yourself. That's what you really wanted.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. So I like the idea of it, because it's a good property. It lends itself to that, to that image, the icon being put on various things, on skateboards and whatnot. So it's great. I love it.
Yeah, and Cherry is just such a great iconic character to put on anything that you want to put it on. You put it on, a towel, a skateboard, you put it on an album cover, it gets the job done, and everybody knows who Cherry is, what Cherry does, and all that stuff. And so obviously, an action figure makes 100% sense, and I'm just a little shocked that it hasn't happened sooner, to be honest.
Yeah, really. Yeah, well, I'm just a cartoonist. I don't know how to do all this merchandising and marketing crap. That's sort of undergrounder. That's sort of against our thing. That's a little
see, Kickstarter solves that though, because Kickstarter is the new underground, where it's
right.
not corporatism, or at least Kickstarter doesn't have to be. You know, there are
Right.
people who make Kickstarter their business, and that's fine. I am 100% honest, where I am not making money on my Kickstarter, but I'm not losing money on what I'm funding, and all the money's going back into developing what I'm trying to do, and it's basically covering expenses, getting my show into podcast form, paying for my streaming, and maybe if there's $50 left, I'll go buy myself a 6-pack to celebrate. You know,
Right.
that's the whole thing, is that I'm not making any money on it. It's going back into it, because the way I make my money is through sponsorships and other ways. You know, I don't make my money through the Kickstarter, but the Kickstarter is a way how to really help fund it, because sponsorships don't happen sometimes. Um, and so I think Kickstarter with this action figure really is the way to go, because you don't have to go, and then you're not dealing with a company that has a bottom line the same way that Hasbro or Jack's Toys has a bottom line.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a whole different framework setup. Yeah. Yeah.
And then also you have a lot more control over it too, where you don't
Right.
have to surrender your character. You know, you could see my elf is up there. You know, that's been my logo for 10 years. I am
Wow.
very, very protective of that logo.
Right.
Meaning that if somebody steals it, I become very litigious very quickly. If somebody makes a certain comment about it and says, I want to go fuck your elf, I get upset, because that's my logo. If I say my alpha is going to have sex with somebody, it's different, because it's mine. You know, if you said you want to throw my alpha with Cherry and they were both doing something, I might let it go because it's you. But the idea is that I'm very protective of my property and my intellectual property. And I think that with this and this entire, and correct me if I'm wrong, since it's Kickstarter, you didn't have to give that up as well. And that's very interesting when people have to go down those paths and make those choices. And that's what I think people have to understand too, is that all of the action figures that I showed, you had really the final say on, where you had a
Right.
lot of control on who was invited in, what they could do, what they couldn't do, and within reason. I mean, you're not going to tell somebody how to draw a line, for instance, but you might not want somebody to be wearing something, or you might not like an idea. You know, obviously, just going to throw this one up here because I like this one. If you didn't like Cherry in Space, it would not have happened, is my point.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was the whole deal of what we used to call underground comics. Large part of it, the radicalness of it, was the very idea of us owning our own shit, because that wasn't a thing until then.
And that's what I think people need to understand. And it's a very, very good lesson where, you know, I've been speaking to people, you know, who don't own their own brand in certain industries and in certain comics. And I'm like, you can't retweet out my Kickstarter. And like, I can't do it. Your brand is not my business. And that to me is the quintessential of the dumbest decision anybody can ever make in their life. Because when you don't own your brand, you don't own the right to retweet whatever you want to retweet, you
Right.
know, and you don't own your intellectual property, then why did you develop it if you didn't own it? And I think that's something that a lot of creators need to learn. And whether you own it by accident or intentional, it doesn't really matter, because once you own it, it's yours. Like, I own that elf. I own this show. I own my bigger company. You know, it's something that I think, and I think I would imagine you feel the same way about Cherry, is that
Mhm.
it's yours. It's not Marvel's. It's not DC's. And I don't think you have any intention of selling it to anybody at the moment.
Nope. Oh no.
And so, no, it's a very important thing, because I think a lot of creators don't understand that, and they're signing deals with companies, and you know those deals are tricky sometimes.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just saying, it's a good lesson where I want to own my shit, and I don't
Yeah.
want anybody else to.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Unless you're giving me $1 million, you know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they don't think about it. Yeah.
$1 million goes a long way, and I'll create something better. Somebody wants to buy my show or pieces of my show for 500,000 to $1 million. My line is open for it. My Twitter DMs are open for that. They're also open for other things, but that's not the point. So if you have $1 million offer for me, anybody out there, and you want to buy my show, I will entertain the offer. And what I mean by entertain the offer is buy you a plane ticket and take you out to a nice restaurant as soon as you hand me the check. But I digress. And all jokes aside, I am curious because this is just the next chapter in Cherry. I know you're working on some book stuff with Cherry, but what can we expect with these action figures? What can we expect with these pieces of art? And what can we expect with Cherry going forward? Because there's a lot more stuff I got a feeling that's coming out with you in the next few years. And you don't have to spoil anything. You could reveal as much as you want, but what's a little bit of a taste for everybody who's about to learn about Cherry and make it their new favorite comic?
Well, I'm working on another book. I want, my idea is to do a graphic novel, do a big long story that is, fights fascism in some way and everything. And as far as anything else, I don't know. Like I say, it's all new to me, and we're just making this shit up as we go. So who knows?
Hey, I'm looking forward to it, and obviously I'm very, very excited because I would love a graphic novel of Cherry. It'd be easier for me to consume it, and I would be stoked for it because it's just easiest for me to consume that in that format, either visually or physically, and I'll pay whatever because it's going to be good, hopefully.
Right. Yeah, and we're starting to think about anyway putting together an omnibus of all this shit that I've done for 50 years. Put it all in one book or a set of books. So
that's also helpful.
Yeah.
Because I think people would really be down for that, especially if it's a hardcover book.
Right. Oh yeah.
People really want hardcover stuff. It's the idea that with Howard Cruz, the hardcover edition of Wendell is a very cool book. It's very exciting. The hardcover issues of Stuck Rubber Baby, that stuff is awesome to have. It looks nice on a shelf. And also, it's the idea that I think people would go ballistic over that stuff if it was Kickstarted in so many ways. Not to mention that I think comic shops would also be interested in possibly having their own variants of books and omnibuses and really nice books because, let's be realistic, people want exclusive material in their stores, and I am an exclusive guy too. I was trying to negotiate a deal with Frankie Comics, and they didn't get back to me because I was trying to get myself a few books for some ads, and the negotiation is still open, everybody. So that's what I'm hoping for because I like exclusive books. But I do want to back out of the entire Cherry thing for a few minutes, and I am curious, and I ask every guest this, and I don't know how many conventions you do. I don't know how many conventions you've done in the past, but obviously the last 2 years, and it looks like the next year, and I can't predict the future, is going to be rough as far as cons and going to conventions and COVID and all that stuff. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on this because I'm 29. You are significantly older than me. You have a very different outlook due to wisdom, being in the industry for over 50 years at this point. And where do you think everything is shifting, and where do you think the next year to 2 years is going to be with all this stuff going on with that?
That's why I don't know. It's strange for me because I've always been a freelance, independent artist. So I have no retirement fund. I got no pension. I got no 401k. I got nothing to take care of me in my old age, but it's coming anyway. And we were all set up to do like 6 or 7 conventions in 2020, and they all got canceled. We do really well at
What is it like for you? And the reason why I ask this is that I have only presented at cons, and I've gotten to this stage where I am just tired, especially my last few panels were rough panels and just professionalism issues and a variety of other stuff. And I've never gotten paid for it. And I'm making money podcasting in my house, which means I don't have to go and spend money to go to a con, stay in a hotel, all that stuff. And
Right.
I kind of don't want to go back. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense where my business isn't predicated on that, but I do miss certain aspects of it where after panels, people want to come and talk to me about a particular topic. And that fan interaction is lost, but also the money is gained. And I know people make money at cons. I know there's a variety of ways people make money. And it's tricky because, certain aspects and certain artists and creators, they're predicated in their funds are to get new fans or even just to move merch sometimes are on that. So what has that been like? Because clearly there's been damage done in that sector.
Mm-hmm.
Not to go too inside to inside baseball, and we don't have to disclose funds or anything like that. But I think what I said is relatively safe.
Yeah, well, that's yeah. Well, we're starting to get back into conventions. We do some of we did Tampa, and we did what I'm getting ready to do one this weekend. There's one in Albuquerque here, so it's hometown convention, which is nice. Don't have to book a hotel and all that shit. And so conventions are good for me because there's a but it's like a really sort of a narrow slice of the public that goes to conventions that is my demographic, but you got to show up there anyway, but I do panels and nobody shows up, or like two guys show up. So it's a very, but you make it up in percent. If you get enough people going by my table, then some of them will be. Although lately has been very gratifying, like this excitement about the action figures and stuff like that. But I've had a lot of young people and women. It really, I really like it that women are fans of my stuff.
There's been a shift where a lot of girls and a lot of women are now really into bad girl art, where that has been a massive shift. Zenoscope, which is obviously they do a lot of bad girl art company, and they may or may not like me saying this, but they are very variant heavy, very bad girl art heavy. They have a very large female audience.
Right. That was one of the deals when I started out, like I was saying, with all the other comics were, and when you had sex, it was associated with violence and all this stuff, and rape and shit. And that was one of the deals that I did was just have her not be a victim. And I don't, preach about it and say, oh, look, she's not a victim. No, she just isn't. And people really respond to that. Women really appreciate that. And that's,
I think that having something that is just, it's sex. It's not anything else. It sounds basic, and that's something that I think people are just like, this is cool. And I think that there's been a very much cultural shift where I know a bunch of girls are like, oh man, that cover is hot. I mean, like I know a bunch of them, and I'm like, yes, and it's funny, and I interview a lot of women creators. I'm reaching out to a bunch, and it's just a weird thing where obviously that's what's going on with that, and so I just think it's very interesting, and I'm very excited because I kind of like Cherry, and I'm excited for like all the reprints and all the good stuff, and I'm hoping Frankie Comics does like issue 4 of Cherry because obviously I like all this stuff, and I guess I'm curious how you think about this. Is where do you think the future of comics is going? Because obviously, your stuff's getting reprinted. This action figure thing is doing amazing, which I think is testament to what Cherry is. The fact that the old stuff is still good and it's better than a bunch of the new stuff, and people really harbor on that. Both people from my generation, possibly younger, and even older than me who read Cherry when it first came out want this stuff now. And where do you think all that stuff is going? Because a lot of stuff has changed in the last 2 years, let alone the last 10.
Oh yeah, well, actually, right. Then this is, as I say, a new thing, and there's a whole new market that didn't exist before. I mean, I've had several people over the years come up and want to be my licensing agent. Oh yeah, I'll do all this stuff, and get all this merchandising happening, and nothing. And I always tell them going in, that hey, this is not a Garfield, this is not a Simpsons, this is not a thing you can have the shit at the checkout stand to the kids to grab, and this is not that. This is a whole different thing. And so now there is a market for that still, and it wasn't happening before. I mean, I had people just fail miserably to try to be my agent, and it just didn't work. The market wasn't there.
Yeah, and I think the internet has expanded that tremendously in so many ways. And I think also it's the idea that this has become now safe, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, right. Well, that's part of it is because of the nature of her. Yeah, she looks like cutesy Archie kind of thing, but it's nasty, Well, yeah, I could clean it up and make it R-rated, and but then it wouldn't be Cherry anymore, would it? It'd just be more of that shit.
But I also think that I'll give a quick example. The word "sexy" when I was in third grade was a very edgy word.
Okay.
If you said the word hell, it was edgy. Now
Yeah.
I'm 29, so you can imagine me 7, 8 years old saying hell, 21 years ago. Now, fast forward, my friends have a sister who is significantly younger. And when she was in third, fourth, fifth grade, the word sexy was just in their vocabulary. It had no meaning. The word became watered down. And so I think that's what somewhat happened with Cherry, but I still think it has that edgy element to it where everybody knows now, where I think society has risen a little bit closer to it. And that's what I think's happened, because that's what's happened with a lot of media, a lot of other things where the word fuck doesn't really have the same meaning as, it did 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
Right. Oh yeah. No, so I keep thinking. I mean, it used to be when I was a kid, saying "goddamn" was totally taboo. And when it said, well, even damn before, you remember when Gone with the Wind came out and he said, I don't give a damn. And that was, taboo, that little thing goes up the back of your spine, It's like, but now it's when you hear the word nigger, oh my God, somebody actually said that. Look, exactly that, when you hear goddamn. But then, yeah. And who the first person that said goddamn in a movie was? It's Elizabeth Taylor.
Crazy.
Anyway, yeah, that's and now it's that, but it's just a word. What is the word? Intrinsically bad, evil, but it was, goddamn was totally taboo.
It's a very, very interesting thing, and I think that Cherry is still very much edgy, and I think society can rise a little bit closer to it. But I think it's very, very fascinating when, obviously now going 2022, I think we've gotten closer to Cherry and what Cherry is, but I don't think that takes away. I just think people are more receptive and open to the idea of what it stands for and what it's trying to accomplish. And I also think that it's beyond culturally significant because it has opened up doors for what can be done. One of my favorite books is Bang Tango. That's basically dealing with a transsexual who's playing the mob, her ex-boyfriend, and a variety of other people so that she could have her freedom. And it's a crazy book. And that book could not have been made without underground comics and coming out of it. And because that book can't be made today either. It was made, I think, in the 90s, early 2000s. And it's a very cool book. And it's just one of those things where I just feel that, underground paved the way. So I am curious what is I sort of think I touched a little bit on what's next for Cherry, and obviously the graphic novels all coming out and everything in that nature. And I think that there's at least 3 or 4 more chapters in you for a bunch of other cool projects. And I think you know what you're doing. I just think you don't want to tell us. That's what I really think.
Yeah, that's it.
I think that's what it is. An hour and 15 minutes in, you're just like, I'm not telling you anymore.
Right.
All my artists, you're gonna basically go through all of my artists. You're gonna book them for covers. They're gonna be mine first, and then they're gonna end up with me for life.
Yep.
And that's what's gonna happen. I am definitely gonna be trying to get an interview out of Moko Fufu because she is an amazing artist. And hopefully, luckily, this is at the end of the interview and not at the front of the interview. This way, people actually have to watch the entire thing to learn how to steal my playbook. But obviously, I do want to give you a chance to promote this action figure, Cherry, everything else that's coming out with it, and where can people find you, support you, actually back the Kickstarter because it does mean something and it goes a long way when you go and back Kickstarters and pick up things because you can't do it without anybody. So where can people, go support all this and support you and actually pick up your work and buy your stuff?
Well, we got a website, cherrycomics.com, and and that's where we sell our stuff.
And then obviously the Kickstarter is up above, so go check that out. I'm going to be pushing out this Kickstarter heavy into my group, my audience.
I appreciate that. Okay.
So definitely going to be pushing this out and all that stuff. And seriously, I mean, go back this Kickstarter. It's cool. I can't make any guarantees that you'll make money off of this action figure / art. But if you're into action figures, you collect them, you're into sort of cool pieces, interesting things, this is definitely up your alley. And there's a lot of choice where you could spend $70 or $80 all the way up to like $300 on certain pieces. So obviously, there's something for everybody and there's all sorts of price ranges. But I will say this, that things are selling out relatively quickly. So you have to keep that in mind, that if you like something, you should pick it up. I have a feeling that if you're looking just for the 4 basic set, that's not going to be selling out because that seems to be however many people order, that seems to be how many you're going to make, and then some extras. But the variant editions definitely are limited. So that's something that people should keep in mind. Also, I'm going to promote myself. Obviously, please use Mix'em. You get 5% off your order. If it's a good discount, you're producing a comic book, it goes a long way. Every percentage point counts. When I back Kickstarters and I'm ordering your books, I like them to be bagged and boarded, please. And I like my books to arrive perfectly. And the way you ensure that is bubble wrap and bags and boards. And bags and boards are expensive, everybody. Last time I checked, a pack of boards is $16 and bags are like $14. That is $30 for 100. So use my code POPAnimeComics. You get 10% off. So that's $3 you save. And if you're shipping out 500 or 1,000 or 3,000 comics, bags and boards get expensive. So please use my code because I do get an affiliate link and it does support this show. Also, my Kickstarter is up and happening. So if you want to guest on my show or want to show me love or you want to buy a super cool $500 tier, I appreciate all sorts of money being thrown my way. But more importantly, any amount helps because it helps keep this show up and running. But more importantly, if you're going to back a Kickstarter, you should back Larry Welz's Kickstarter with the action figure first, and then you should back my Kickstarter right after because we both need support and you should be backing both. And I don't care if you throw me $1. If you throw me $1, I will be happy. You throw me $3, I'll be even happier. So please go do that. And I'm going to give you the final word.
Okay. I'm really gratified and grateful, and this is great. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for coming on. I mean, you're a legend. So you've been doing this forever. So I should really be thanking you because clearly, I mean, you're a legend in the industry and you've done so much for so many things. and just I know I was going to give you the final word, but I'm taking that back now.
Yeah,
Um,
really.
just to give you massive compliments while we're live. You've progressed freedom of speech in a lot of ways. You progressed freedom of speech in comics. You are in a lot of freedom of speech comic ads. I'm sure the comic book legal defense fund loves you because you clearly have pushed the line, paved the path for so many people, showed that anything can be done with a comic. And I think that you've put a bunch of smiles on people's faces. And so I
Okay.
think that's something that people really need to understand is that in I don't know how many people stay in comics for 50 years. It's a very short list. And you've done that, and you haven't just done that, you've actually progressed the entire medium. And I think it's very important that people understand that we only dealt with a very, very small section of what you've done. And it is important that people realize that you're not, you're making the industry better than when you entered it. And you're leaving it better for the next generation. And I think that that's something that you should be complimented for and rewarded for. And I think people really need to know that. So that's how we're going to wrap up. Unless you have anything else you would like to say, the floor is
Well,
yours.
thank you so much. That's great. That's really yeah. Thanks.
And that is a perfect note. And I believe that is a wrap.
Okay.